Welcome to another day in the Matrix. This is Waters Above, and the title of today's video is not clickbait. We don't do that here on this channel. What we're about to get into today is extremely important, not only for XRP investors, but for anyone who holds altcoins and wants to have an edge on this market. This video is going to be packed with value, and if you watched my last video regarding the warning I gave on XRP, and how everything's unfolded since, you now see how important it is to consider these not so common ways of analyzing these markets. It's crucial to know that here we are conscious investors. Our outlook on this subject of investing is rare, it's unique, it's uncommon, and one of my favorite quotes that I say often from Oscar Wilde, everything popular is wrong. And the average investor gets sucked into the vortex of what's deemed popular. But you are not the average investor. You are a conscious investor. And if you made it here and are listening to this, then you must know that you are here for a reason. It's perfectly aligned, exactly how this code was designed. And most who find this channel brush it off. They will disregard what we're talking about here. Then, in most cases, even mock it. And I knew that before I even created my first video. I was expecting that. And what makes me different is that I get motivated by doubt. And the key reason why is that I'm aware that this frequency is not for everyone. And that it's a beautiful thing, because this frequency is for those who have the ears to hear and the eyes to see. And that's all that matters. So if you're listening to this, I'm grateful for you being tuned in. So let's get into today's video. And if you're new here, we do cryptocurrency technical analysis and combine it with Gematria, Numerology, and Astrology to understand these markets. Feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell notification to stay updated on when new videos come out. And make sure to give this video a like and share this channel with other conscious beings to help grow our community. And with that being said, let's take the clear pill. So, in my last video, I thoroughly reviewed the XRP chart and shared some very important analysis for the short term. At around the 27-minute mark, I mentioned the overbought RSI on the XRP daily chart and how I was anticipating a pullback in the short term that would be completed by this month's full moon, which is on November 27th. And for the rest of that video, I went into all the details for the expected pullback, including the specific timing and price targets, and even mentioned that the pullback could happen in a single 4-hour candle and be bought back up above 62 cents instantly. And that's exactly how this all went down. Ironically, after news got out that there was an alleged XRP ETF approved. So you can see how they use news to liquidate leveraged retail traders in both directions. This is why here at Waters Above, we don't give our energy to the news, because news is the broken compass, north, east, west, south. And there's nothing more distracting than an organized confusion campaign. My suggestion, protect your prana, protect your life force energy. Don't get emotional playing in these markets. Save your emotions for real life. Invest your emotion into your people, your family, your community, your purpose, and avoid the distractions from these agents of chaos. These are words of wisdom, not swords of initiation. Remember that. Also, shout out to Bearable Bull for sharing this same post and analysis on one of his recent videos. I'm sure the XRP community got a lot of value out of that, so I appreciate him for sharing my art. And for anyone who found my channel from my past interviews with the Bearable Bull, I appreciate y'all. Welcome. It's amazing to have you here on this ride with us. 2024 is going to be absolutely transformative, especially if those who align with our frequency continue to collaborate with each other. That's really what this is all about, collaboration, not competition. So, since this last video I released on November 8th, titled XRP hits my 70-cent target, prepare now for the next big move. Exactly 1 week later on November 14th, XRP traded below this target of 60 cents. And going from 65 to below 60, then back up to 62 in a single 4-hour candle. So let me actually get into that chart right now so you can see how it all went down. So the video was released right around here at the time frame where XRP was getting a little bit overheated. I mentioned in that video, we'd probably see this move happen in a 4-hour candle. What's really interesting about how this all went down was after I released the video, there was this ETF news that came out. We saw XRP shoot up really quickly to 74 cents, making a micro top, but then in the same 4-hour candle getting rejected perfectly back below this trend line that's been in play. It's a resistance trend line, and we'll get into that in a little bit. And after that, we actually had another liquidation event. So in both directions, they got people who were leveraged short and then leveraged long. And it happened pretty much within a 24-hour time frame. So again, just recapping why this news stuff is a huge distraction and why we don't give any of our energy to that here on this channel. We're decoders. We're looking at what's esoteric, not what is exoteric. The news is exoteric. It's designed to literally be like a bait, and they catch you like a fish. So don't bite the hook. Now, getting back to this whole concept and the analysis and everything that we shared, we had this play out pretty nicely, liquidations in both directions. Now I'm assuming that XRP is probably going to chill out a little bit, give away this crazy volatility that we've had over the past week, and it will start mostly heading to the downside, but not too far. And I talked about it in my last video. Go check that out. We gave out some of these targets to consider, and we will explore that again in today's video just because we've had some things change since. So getting back to this, the analysis here on this channel back in October, we got the timing of this breakout to the initial peak of 73 cents. Then I sent out a warning at a time when a majority of the XRP community was assuming XRP would continue to break out further, but it was important at that time to realize that the chart was getting overheated and a pullback was needed to keep everything on schedule for what seemingly was these ETF news rituals that flooded social media. Of course, all of that was a distraction to create a liquidation event. As above, so below. Classic. And this warning that I'm talking about was back here in this post, and that was what was shared by the Bearable Bull. Followed that up with my following video, which we went into this chart. So now let's revisit this XRP chart I shared in my last video. This is the XRP 2-day chart. It's showing 3 separate phases and how I believe we're at phase 3 of this exact structure. We're currently still in the process of phase 3, and in this past iteration over here, you can see that XRP came back down here to backtest this white moving average. That's the 55 simple. So the 55 SMA on the 2-day chart. And this pullback actually perfectly aligned with the full moon during that exact month. So this is really important to see that the structure has been playing out, and we've gotten a little bit of a pullback since, and we just had our new moon a couple of days ago. And this is how it went back here in phase 3 around late February, moving into March 2021. Same exact structure, and now we're in the process of heading back towards this level right here. So when we go back to that time frame, late 2020 or late February 2021, moving into March of that year, during that last time we saw this setup, this similar pattern playing out. If we go to the XRP daily chart, this is where things get pretty interesting. So I'm going to be heading back down to that moment, late February, March 2021. And I just want to show you what the RSI was looking like at this time. So we could see over here. Let me go to this chart. Actually, it might be a little bit cleaner. Okay. So we have this part circled right here. And if you just look at this part of the screen where these numbers are, as I adjust moving from left to right, you will see the way that this number goes from 62 right now, slowly down till we get over here, which is February 23rd. We broke below 50 RSI and we went down to about 43 RSI before recovery. So what that means in plain English is XRP went below 50 RSI for about 9 days around that month's full moon. And I'll show you the moon phases right here so you can see how perfect this was. You can just see how topping out at the new moon, pulling back into the full moon, rise into the new moon, pull back into the full moon, rise into the new moon, pull back into the full moon, rinse, repeat. And then we had this sideways moment before we made our yearly highs. This is not really so much the same energy necessarily, because back here we were in alt season for everything, and XRP already had its own black swan, and you're all aware of it. It was where SEC went after Ripple with the whole case, and we've had updates since, and I'll be getting into that in a moment, but most of you are well aware of a lot of that stuff. So that is what makes it different, but what does not make it different is the structure and the way that this project is moving. So it's moving identical, and it could have a little bit of this sideways over the next, let's just see how many days this is. It's 30 days. I don't know if it'll go on that long, but needless to say, I am looking out for a potential $1 XRP as early as the very beginning of January 2024. And that comes back to what we titled the video. Talk about that in a moment as well. So we have this new moon top, which I'm comparing to what was a couple of days ago, and then pull back into this full moon. And the RSI was my trigger point, which made me send out this warning. It had everything to do with this 88 RSI when we pumped up at the moment that XRP was no longer deemed a security by the court. Again, I talked about this in depth in my last video as well. So I just wanted to talk about the RSI because I feel that we could be mimicking what happened last time. And I'm going to go to this local chart today and show you how many days it took for us to go from this overheated RSI at about 88, which, by the way, we just had a very similar RSI, and that's what I was showing in this chart over here. Well, if we go from this top to when the RSI effectively got below 50 again, it took 21 days. So I just want to move over here and show you from this current top. I'm not going to count this scam wick. I'm going to go 21 days since the day of November 6th, where we effectively made an actual microcycle top. And when I go 21 days over, it lands on Monday, 27th of November. Now, why that's so important is because Monday, November 27th is the day of our full moon. So consider both of these scenarios that I just went over simultaneously and how so far they're playing out with incredible precision. This gives us the same window I usually talk about in my moon cycle analysis, plus or minus 5 days around a moon cycle. So in this case, plus or minus 5 days around a full moon to see your micro cycle bottoms before the energy pivots bullish leading into the following new moon. So this month we have the full moon on November 27th. This gives us a window of November 23rd to December 1st to consider, which perfectly aligns with the decode that I shared in my last video mentioning the significance of the Hebrew calendar around this time. I'm not going to be getting too deep into a decode in today's video. I wanted to make this a shorter one, but I will just quickly recap what I talked about there. The date that I mentioned was in the Hebrew calendar of 17 Kislev. Now, this is the Gregorian date of November 30th this year. So you can see 17 Kislev in the Gregorian calendar, it lands on November 30th. The significance behind this from a decoding perspective is this tie to Palestine and Israel. So on this specific day back in 1947, you can see that the United Nations approved a plan for the partition of Palestine, which led to the creation of the state of Israel. And this perfectly aligns with the following day, which would be December 1st of this year. And that's the day that David Ben-Gurion died. So this is huge. He was the first prime minister of Israel. The significance of his death date being 50 years ago to this upcoming December 1st, which aligns with this Yom Kippur War, which was back in 1973, same year that David Ben-Gurion died. And this year in 2023, 50 years after the Yom Kippur War, to the day Israel declares war again on October 7th, just last month. So this year was a very special year because it was a Jubilee. And for those who've been following along with this channel since before I mentioned this was the Jubilee year, actually prior to it becoming the actual Jubilee year, You can now confirm this. What's unfolded on the world stage since the end of September 2022, it has proven the essence of a Jubilee month after month. And of course, the apex predator celebrated the end of this Jubilee with a war ritual, as they usually do, because they're literally vampires and we are their food. Getting back to XRP and the crypto market, we have our time frame between November 23rd to December 1st, excuse me, and the emphasis about this time frame being the last Friday of November on the 24th, the following day. The last Friday of November leading into the first Friday of December, the 1st of December. Again, watch my last video. I speak about this in depth. Now that we have the time frame to consider for this short-term pullback that we have already started, let's go over to the charts and recap the price target to consider. And that again was the 2-day chart on XRP. And it was this 55 simple moving average, which you're going to see as this white moving average right here. And as of today, it's sitting at 55 cents. So the 55 SMA is at 55 cents. Coincidence. And we'll be going over to the 3-day chart now, because the 3-day chart has a similar kind of moving average to consider, and that is the EMA, the 34 EMA. 34 EMA on the 3-day chart sitting at 56 cents as we speak. So these are the two key moving averages to consider with this style of pullback and this overall structure we're seeing in the XRP chart. Since we've effectively had a swipe below 60 cents in that 4-hour candle just a couple days ago, we can still entertain another test to that 60-cent level. And after looking at the charts today, it looks like we're pretty much heading back down there. I believe we even got a swipe today to 61. So it's no difference. All right. This, I would be personally just sharing some words of wisdom really quickly. I wouldn't at this time be getting greedy right now, trying to hit some perfect buy order on the lows. There is essentially no difference between 60, 59, 58, or 61 cent XRP at the end of the day. This asset has a trajectory into the double digits for late 2024. So that's above $10 in Q4 2024, moving into Q1 2025. So there's no point in splitting hairs here over 1 or 2 cents difference. Literally, as I filmed today's video, XRP is at 62 cents on the nose, and I was giving out a warning back the day we were hitting this microcycle top. So this, again, it's just opportunities. I want people to be aware of that right now more than ever as we inch closer to this next phase of the bull run. So there's no point in splitting hairs here. The ideal strategy is always to dollar cost average into position over time. I'm personally taking this 60-cent target seriously for my accumulation process, as I was able to get my 59-cent order filled just a couple days ago on November 14th during that volatility. I shared that with my community over on Patreon. So this year I got in a short-term trade at an average of 37 cents back in March over here. That was 37 cents average to get going on that long. I then de-risked on this time frame of July 13th at an average of 86 cents going short then. That's a 130% swing. This was all public. I shared every bit of this openly on YouTube for free. Then I got back in a couple of days after this recent solar eclipse, which happened on October 14th. I got in around October 17th, right below 50 cents. So that ended up being a really good buy in the grand scheme of things. I got in around 49 cents and 50 cents, 2 separate orders. I added to this position actually just a couple days ago on this swipe down to 49 cents. And I will actually probably do another buy, especially if we're getting back to that 60-cent region that we just tapped down on a couple days ago. And all of this that I just shared with you, I did this with de-risking profits that I took back in July. So the goal here is to accumulate as many XRP as possible during this phase of the cycle. I'm starting to prioritize the amount of coin I hold and not looking at it so much from a dollar basis anymore, because we're moving into the next phase of a bull run cycle. So to simplify this for you and to give you the most value possible, As we get closer to the Bitcoin halving, under half a year out, which if the halving is expected during mid to late April, that means we're currently about 5 months out from the halving. I will adjust my investment thesis to start to look at everything based in the amount of coin I hold rather than dollar amounts. For example, instead of thinking about 100 USD of XRP, I'd start to refine my investment thesis to only consider how many actual XRP coins, XRP tokens I hold. And I'd like to use this way of perceiving it all for my planning, from my portfolio to my exit strategy. Then once we're a couple months after the Bitcoin halving, I'll start to look at everything more from a de-risking outlook when profit taking becomes the priority. And then I'll start to look at my portfolio based in fiat again. And I teach all of this in my Crypto Mastermind course, which includes my exit strategy blueprint for free. And anyone who is part of the Mastermind community over on Patreon will get live updates of when I'm personally buying and selling. So that's one of the perks included with a membership at patreon.com/watersabove. And like the title says, this time right now could really be the last chance to accumulate XRP this low. Now, because of where the technicals sit with this macro XRP chart that we were discussing over here, this concept, we do have an area to consider up here between 90 cents to $1.40 that does need attention. But for now, let's take things one step at a time and focus on these opportunities here in the present moment. And of course, I'll be updating you all every step of the way as we move into this 2024 crypto bull run. Lastly, let's just check in with the Bitcoin chart to wrap up today's video. It's important we have a general overview of what to expect in the short term, and that's exactly what these charts will expose. So let's get into it. And before we get into the TA, go ahead and give this video a like if you haven't already. Spread some love in the comment section. That's what we're all about here. So getting over to the Bitcoin chart, we have actually had so far 2 rejections at 38K. Technically today, it's really confirming that because we are looking to do a Twin Towers candle, something that I talk about years ago when I started my channel, that this type of structure happens really often in Bitcoin and in crypto in general. We get these big green candles making everyone feel bullish, and then the following day, we are pretty much down as much as we were up the day before. But let's talk about this number 38 for a second, these 2 rejections at 38K. The number 38 has significance because it's 3 8s. 8 times 3 equals 24. And that's the main code to pay attention to moving forward, as we're currently in the Hebrew year of 5,784. That adds up to 24. All of today, we've been talking about the Hebrew calendar and the Shemitah and the Jubilee and all of these things based in the Hebrew calendrical system. That's because that's what really runs this market. It's important to realize that. And by the way, that has nothing to do with Judaism. It's really just another way of looking at calendrics. It's considering lunar cycles and not just the sun, like what we see with the Gregorian calendar. So essentially, taking both of those calendrical systems and combining them could make your outlook just a lot more solid, have more clarity, and it'll make more sense overall in why we have certain events happen at certain times and why we see bull runs during certain years and market crashes during certain years. And that's what we've figured out and have been talking about every time we make videos on this channel for the past 2.5 years. So it's important to definitely look into this Hebrew calendar and the significance of it. And when I see this 24 code, I will be definitely talking about it more often as we're in this current Hebrew year of 5,784, especially while there is war in Israel. This is massively important. So we're also moving into the Gregorian year of 24. We would call 2024 24, and Satoshi is 24 in Chaldean. Satoshi Nakamoto gives you 89. That's the 24th prime number. The mirror of the number 24 is 42. Satoshi Nakamoto equals 181. That is your 42nd prime number, the mirror of 24. Satoshi is Saturn. That's 42 right there. Saturn is Satoshi, the mythology. Satoshi is mythology. This is Father Time, the blockchain. And what's really interesting about all of this is that the last time that Bitcoin traded at $38,000 was all the way back in May of 2022, specifically May 5th. And May 5th in the Gregorian system would be 5-5, like the number 55, like Satoshi Nakamoto gives you 55 in multiple ciphers. Remember how Satoshi's birthday is April 5th, but then the mirror date of May 4th is Hal Finney's birthday? And that's been the alleged kind of conspiracy of who the real Satoshi is for a while. I'm not going to even entertain this Craig Wright nonsense, but again, this is all esoterica that we can utilize for the exoteric stuff, like the whole Satoshi Hal Finney story. Needless to say, I just find it interesting how Satoshi Nakamoto gives you this 55. That was the last time Bitcoin traded at 38,000, It was right over here in this May timeframe of 2022, right after Satoshi's birthday, believe it or not. And what I love about all of this is if you take from that time frame of the last time Bitcoin traded at 38,000 to today's recent rejections, it was about 555 days ago. So many 55s. And in prior videos, I spoke about this particular time frame right now being significant for Bitcoin because of the ties to Satoshi Nakamoto's last birthday. So his 48th birthday was the 5th of April this year. That was 223 days, leaving the 48 days left in the year. So I don't want to confuse people. I'm just going to actually type this all out for you. We have April 5th of this year tied to the day leaving 48 days left in the year. Satoshi turned 48, and 223 is the 48th prime number. So it's crazy you have so many 48s just between two dates. Okay, now Satoshi is turning 49 next year naturally, which is essentially his super Shemitah. That's 7 cycles of 7 years, 49 naturally being 7 squared, 7 sevens. So I want you to consider tomorrow, since tomorrow is actually going to be the 17th, and that's 227 days since Satoshi's last birthday. That is the 49th prime number. So that could be in play here as we get closer to Satoshi's 49th. I hope this stuff makes sense. What's also incredible about this is this day of November 17th is a 17. We have it on a 17 date numerology, and Satoshi's next birthday also lands on a 17 date numerology. It's really incredible how this is all coded together because 17 is the 7th prime number, and we keep talking about the significance of this being his 49th birthday, 7 sevens. Tomorrow is also about 5 days since the new moon, and we spoke about this earlier with the plus or minus 5 day window after the moon cycle for a pivot in energy, but I wouldn't get too bearish on Bitcoin right now. As I've shown in several of my last videos how we're in this particular phase of the solar cycle where Bitcoin tends to hold higher lows on every following full moon after the second solar eclipse of a solar cycle. So what that means in plain English, if I was to just turn all of this off and show you, this was our last full moon, which was the lunar eclipse, and Bitcoin closed at $34,000. I have that marked off in our chart. Well, to simplify this, we must consider this lunar eclipse because in all prior cycles, when we had our following full moon, which would be this month on November 27th, we did not go lower than the daily close we had on that lunar eclipse. We held higher lows. So we're about 8 to 10% above that level right now. And side note, we could absolutely flash lower than 34K in the short term before the full moon. But then it's likely we still close that full moon day higher than 34K and ultimately close the monthly candle moving into December above 34K. And remember, this is based on prior iterations of this structure. It's not my opinion. It's just what Bitcoin has done since its genesis. Would I personally like Bitcoin to come lower than this? Sure. But I'm a technical analyst and professional trader, so my opinion doesn't have any merit when it comes to this, and I want people to be reminded of that. When I share these numbers and targets and all of this stuff, I'm just giving you the data. I'm showing you what has happened in the past, and I'm doing my best to provide you clarity. And what's really special about this channel is you have the why. You actually know why these things are occurring. You know why it's bearish, because it's around a full moon. You know why we crashed on a specific date, because it's a solar or lunar eclipse, etc. We know why we have an all-time high on every new moon in Q4. You know, these are sort of just patterns, and we have an esoteric reasoning behind why it's going down. So now my intuition tells me that there is way too much bullish energy around this alleged ETF launch. It's just becoming too greedy in its essence. Everyone has this opinion that it must be bullish for Bitcoin to have this ETF launched. And this is starting to trigger my intuition, and it's wanting me to go against the herd. Now, I'm not saying that in the long term, a Bitcoin ETF can't be tremendously bullish, but whether there was an ETF or not in this conversation, I'd still personally have an outlook of a new all-time high for Bitcoin in Q4 2024, regardless. And that's based off of all of this work I do decoding these charts and the countless hours of technical analysis I've done. So getting back to my theory here is that I wouldn't be surprised if Bitcoin stays in a bullish essence until the next solar eclipse in April. That's April 8th of 2024. But then we have something that occurs on the world stage, a really important event to bring a bearish scare to the market, to bring some fear into the market. And by then, the ETFs will all be approved and operating, and those big funds with all of the money they have will definitely take advantage of that moment to buy up all the Bitcoin and altcoins that retail panic sells, just like what happened back in March of 2020 at the beginning of C19. So that's just a theory I have. But from now until the end of this year and moving into 2024, I have a good feeling about these markets moving into the election year, and feel we're generally likely to head up for the crypto market between now and Q2 of 2024. The stock market, on the other hand, is another conversation for another time. So let's just wrap up this video. On the Bitcoin daily chart, we have a couple of the EMAs to consider. We have this 21 EMA sitting perfectly on this support trend line, which has effectively been in play for a little bit over 3 weeks. That's crucial to know. We also have this 34 exponential perfectly hitting 34K Bitcoin on the lunar eclipse level. So again, another coincidence, 34K is your 34 EMA. It's funny how this is happening today. We're very synchronized, as you can see. So we also have this 55 simple moving average sitting somewhere around 31,000. And this is the highest the 55 SMA has been since June of 2022, almost a year and a half ago. So I want you to keep an eye out for this 34 EMA on the daily chart. Every time Bitcoin comes to backtest this 34 EMA, there tends to be a failure at that level. And then Bitcoin comes down lower to the 55 simple moving average. You'll know we're very bullish when Bitcoin can actually hold the 34 EMA on the daily, and it could close on it as a support on any short-term pullbacks. But lately that has not been the case. I think we're getting close to flipping that and actually starting to hold it as a support, and it would not surprise me if that is what happens at this moment. So to simplify all of this, if we're going to have a deeper correction going lower into this 32, 33 area, that would not be weird. Even if we were to backtest 32 on the top of this prior resistance, then bounce, close the 34 EMA as a support, and then just keep it moving. I don't really feel at this time that there's a possibility to be entertaining a sub 30K Bitcoin. We're just in a completely different essence right now. If that happens, that'd be very rare, and then we would have to go back to the drawing board. But until then, things have been pretty spot on since we've had this double back test of the 25K region, and we're looking good to go moving into the end of this year. So 40K Bitcoin is still in the cards before the end of this year. And I'm going to wrap up today's video here. I hope you guys enjoyed today's analysis, took notes, and just so you know, next week I have a very special sale coming from my website, watersabove.com. So if you're interested in any of my courses, you're definitely going to want to take note of that. I'm really looking forward to be sharing some more information in next week's update. I appreciate every single one of you for tuning in all the way to the end. Wishing you an amazing rest of your week. Much love.